Hello and welcome to a special episode of Talking Insights. In this installment, we're sharing a fascinating conversation that took place on September 14th during Esomar's Insights Festival. We're delighted to share an interview between Frédéric Petit, CEO of Harris Interactive and CEO and founder of Toluna, and Richard Thorogood, Vice President and Global Head of Consumer and Market Insights at Colgate-Palmolive, as they discuss the need for agility and innovation to meet the fast-changing consumer landscape of 2020. You can find lots more content from the Insights Festival on Esomar's YouTube channel, which is packed with interesting talks, presentations, interviews, and more. And now, over to Finn Rabin, Director of Esomar, to introduce the speakers.
So it's my pleasure now to kind of change up the tone a little bit, and I'm going to invite two industry leaders who are going to have a fireside chat about the future of insights and meeting the needs, I guess, of the 2020 consumer, and which is kind of particularly important in these days, and following on from the last number of months of extraordinary times. Our two superheroes, our two icons, our two powerhouses of research on this occasion are Frédéric Charles Petit, who is the CEO of Harris Interactive Europe. He's also the CEO and founder of Toluna, and who's been involved with Esomar for a long number of years. And Richard Thorogood, who is the Vice President and Global Head of Market Insights for Colgate-Palmolive, based out of the United States. And Richard has been a member of Esomar now for a little while. And Richard, I'm delighted you're joining us today. I'm sorry that we're meeting again virtually and that I still haven't managed to actually get across to the US and meet you in person, but delighted that you're here. So these two superheroes of research are going to be talking about the new need for agility and for innovation, which is particularly timely, I guess, at the moment, considering the launch of a new product called Toluna Start, which is, according to Frédéric, the industry's first end-to-end consumer intelligence platform. And if I'm not mistaken, Frédéric, I believe that the launch is officially today. Is that correct?
Thank you very much, Finn. Very happy to be with you, although I'll prefer when we're face-to-face somewhere, whether in Amsterdam, Paris, or somewhere. I wish for all of us to meet face-to-face next time.
I'm into that.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a great day for us. Thank you very much for bringing that up. It's the culmination, almost of 20 years of innovation at Toluna. It's our 20-year anniversary. And it's really establishing, and recognizing the legacy of the company, not only in research, which is fundamental, I believe, but also in technology. And so with clients, we've developed, the best of breed of a SaaS platform, access to people across the globe, expertise and actionable insight. I'm very happy to have Richard with us. Richard, I don't really see you on the screen, but I hope everyone else sees you.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah, great. First of all, we've got great discussion, over the last few days, and I really appreciate you taking the time. You have a view on the market research industry that's almost unique, given the various responsibility that you have had over time, whether it's regionally, for product and now globally at Colgate. So, really looking forward to that discussion between us. Colgate, and I want to remind that, is a company that has always been reflective from my standpoint, and, the value of, caring, continuous improvement, integrity, and as I see that working with your global teamwork. And I want to know, in the time in which we live, how those values have been, helping Colgate during that, and you can go on the buzzer during these unprecedented times.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for those kind words, Frédéric. And Finn, thank you very much for letting Colgate be part of the Esomar conference. We've been corporate members for a little while, and it's great to really be part of this event. So I think, yes, you're absolutely right. Colgate has a really deep set of values and beliefs and truly lives them. Our CEO, who recently took over, really has been connecting to the employees around the world, talking about the importance of those values. And really, I think the crisis that we've seen, whether it's COVID, whether it's topics such as Black Lives Matter, really reinforce the importance of companies having deep values and not just having them on pieces of paper, but really living by them. And, I think Colgate has done several activities really to support that. We've been a partner with the World Health Organization in their hand washing campaign. I think in crisis, having deep values of the highest integrity is critically important.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I'm sure that resonates with all of us at Esomar. Innovation is at the core of what you do at Colgate Palmolive, but during the discussion that we had, we talk about consumer insight, and I think that there was one thing that became clear to me, and something that we both values, I think, is the focus on the person, on the individual, on the community, not just on the consumer. And at Tuluna, one of our motto was to be in touch with people, and we made it on purpose, not in touch with consumer only. But can you talk about that, and can you speak to this?
Yeah, Frederick, it really is a personal passion point of trying to remove the word consumer from the industry that we're in. COVID and other situations have really emphasized just how important it is to get beyond those very small moments when people engage with our brands and our products. Colgate is lucky. We're probably the most used brand in the world, and people use us twice a day, morning and night. So I get about 4 minutes of people's attention on my product, but that still means 99% of people's lives is not as a Colgate consumer. And so as an industry, we have to think much more broadly than just consumers and using that as a label. We have to think about the culture that we all live in. We have to think about the family, the opportunities, the hopes and the aspirations. And then we connect back to how do our brands, how do our products deliver against the much bigger needs. Nobody is really spending their life worrying about whether there's going to be a better toothpaste in the future. But we have to, as the brand, make sure that we can talk and relate to people's needs and help support them. So the more we can think about people-centric and people insights and not the word consumer, the better for everybody.
I can only agree with you on that. And do you think that this moment in time in which we are is basically an opportunity to emphasize that, to crystallize that shift from consumer research to people research?
Yeah, I really do. I mean, I think that understanding people's concerns and worries, that people are worried about so many different things today, whether it's about having a job, whether it's about whether a relative is going to recover, whether it's about equality for everybody of gender, race, etc. I think it's important that we understand those broad drivers of the world we live in, and only then do we sort of connect back to those small moments when they're consuming our products. We have to, as an industry, shift much more broadly to ensure we stay relevant and deliver, what people really want from products, not just sort of like here's a advanced formulation. So yeah, absolutely. I think this moment in time has emphasized that shift from consumer to people thinking.
Yes, so it's a rapid shift, and we can come back to that during the discussion. But it's a shift which emphasizes, from my point of view, the need for agility. But by agility, I mean a lot of people think about agility about speed only, and speed, I would say at any cost, whether it's a cost for quality or really the things that we sometimes discuss, which is the cost of research. It's about adaptability and the ability for enterprise like you, small or big, to adapt, quickly. And, I believe that, technology can do that, through platform, for instance. And, how has Colgate adapted to this moment in time and what I believe is the need for an accelerated agility? How have you cope with that?
Yep. No, I agree with you, Frederick. We had the chance to speak about agile is not a euphemism for quick and cheap. Agile really means something very different. I think agile is about the ability to move very quickly, but it's doing it through a prepared way. So something like a firefighter is exposed to situations that they've maybe never seen before, but through their training, through their experience, they're able to make very quick and appropriate decisions. And I think sometimes we think agile is just about who can be the quickest, who can be the cheapest. And I think that's a dangerous place to race towards, that's a race towards the bottom. So I think, agile is about having a range of tools or about a platform that allows you to gain learning very quickly. So a platform which is available around the world, for example, to gain feedback from people, by literally just asking a few questions very quickly, turning that around, that becomes very useful. That's an agile solution. And that allows our agile processes to keep moving forward at a speed. So I do understand that speed is part of being agile, but agile is all about having informed solutions, about having appropriate tools and techniques, not just who can do it the quickest and who can do it the cheapest, which sometimes is what people think of when they talk about agile research.
I agree with you. I think that for me, you can't be a platform if you're in the research industry. I'm talking about our industry. If you're not deeply rooted within that industry, and our participation to Esomar amplify that. So it's agile for me. It is speed, but it's speed with preparation, as you said, which is the foundation of quality. And we can talk about quality in a moment if you want. Quality and methodology and what's being acceptable from a research standpoint. And if you can scale that, if you can make it ubiquitously available across the globe, then you're agile. From an enterprise standpoint. So yeah.
And I think, Frederick, sorry to interrupt. I do think that, there is this element of speed in agile, don't get me wrong, but it's using the appropriate vehicle. If you're trying to go fast and you just took an ordinary car and put it on a racetrack, it's probably going to end in disaster. You have to have designed a car to be a racing car. Now, with that comes compromises. That racing car may not work then on a off-terrain sort of race or something. And that's, again, where agile is about having different solutions to allow you to move quickly, but also, as you say, with great accuracy. There's no point in moving quickly and just getting a load of rubbish. There still has to be this real eminent focus on quality, and I think that's why our partnership with Toluna has been, because, Harris Interactive and Toluna are grounded in quality as a starting point, and then finding how to deliver quality at speed rather than what's the quickest thing I can do, and then, we'll go from there.
Yeah, and going back to that notion of agility, but on a different point than platform. What we've seen during this year is, and we've helped clients transitioning research that they were doing offline, face to face, online, and it has been a very rapid shift. So what I've seen, I've never seen. The transition from offline to online that I've seen during this unfortunate period, I can say is faster than what I've seen, during the 2005, 2006, like long time ago. How have you adapted that type of research at Colgate? Have you moved research from offline to online, given the, sometimes the duress of contacting people or connecting with people face to face?
Yeah, no. Yes, there was a sheer pragmatism that we had to do that in places like Latin America and India. Virtually all of our research historically had been face to face, but we had to find ways to move some of that to being online. In some cases, we know that doesn't give us the full representation, but the other things we're doing increasingly is finding that technology is out there to enable you to do things that you had never done before. India, we like to go to people's homes and spend time in their homes talking, building up deep empathy with people. That's not possible in today's situation. But it is, because the Indian team found some virtual technology that allows 7 or 8 Colgate people to have a virtual in-home visit. And actually, one of the great things of that is it's allowed senior management, who perhaps wouldn't normally have the time, to actually really start to get into real people's homes. And I know this week our team in India did a virtual rural visit where they actually supplied the technology to homes so that we could then participate and really understand the challenges that people are going through. So yeah, sometimes crisis really accelerates trends and forces you to do things differently, and then you move forward. So yeah, absolutely moving more online.
You're managing a big team across the globe. Are you pointing out to a greater level of collaboration during that period, something that you might not have seen before? I've seen that in your, I mean, not from a research standpoint. At Tuduna, I've seen a greater level of collaboration at a moment in time where we were all locked down at home. So have you seen that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I will say yes. I'll also say there's a caveat to that. Without a doubt, we are sharing best practices. We are looking to do things, take advantage of what's happening. There's so much activity going on if you don't have to reinvent something. At the same time, there's a lot of local needs to do things, and therefore sometimes collaboration gets delayed a little bit, but we're connecting as a group. I mean, it's interesting now that everybody is virtual. Actually, some of our global meetings are actually more productive because everybody is now calling in, everybody's equitable. In the past, you maybe have half the people physically in New York and in a meeting, and it was harder for people on the line to contribute. So certainly I think that's one of the good things is the quality of collaboration, I think, has risen, yeah.
So let me move, if you want, into the need for innovation, the need of, depending if you agree with me or not on that, the need for innovation for a company with so many brands like Colgate during that period. So one of the things, the use case we've really focused is the innovation sprint into our platform. How can we make it scalable? How can we help our clients, our brands to test more things, be able to move from identifying a signal or a trend and trying to see how that signal or trend can translate into a product or a service, etc. Can you speak to your experience during that time and how it has changed your needs?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, innovation has always been the lifeblood of a company like Colgate, but certainly when events change very dramatically, your ability to innovate and supply products that people need. Maybe in the past, the focus on the need for hygiene and antibacterial hadn't been so intense. So we were very quickly able to sort of make sure we gained learning. What were people looking for? We gained some learning around sustainability. For example, in Europe, there was a hypothesis that maybe sustainability was going to be eliminated. In fact, we found out that the crisis for many people was accelerating their interest in environment and green. And certainly the ability to learn that from multiple countries very quickly allowed us to make decisions rapidly and ensure that, we were fueling our growth and innovations through the most current knowledge that we could gain. So certainly that ability to sort of continue to learn quickly, and I think you used the word testing. Again, maybe I'm just getting very semantic here. Again, I would prefer us not to think about testing, but getting quick learning. At the end of the day, I think as an industry, we have to move beyond the absolutism and certainty of like this test says that and that test says this, to say we have this piece of learning. And that's where I think speed and agility comes in, because you're building learning to inform a decision rather than insights or research being the decision alone.
I think if I well understand what you're saying, I fully agree with you. If I say that we've moved from getting the solution to yes or no, it's a good product, yes or no, this is a good formula, yes or no, that's the right price, and it takes, let's not caricature, it takes a week or two, to a moment in time where we say we have to be iterative in nature. We have to agree that we're going to get a lot of tactical point of data, and that if we get enough of those point of data across time, we're going to form a decision, and our decision may evolve over time as well. So leaving ourselves the ability to change decision, but in natural way, almost instinctive through the touch point with data. Is it what you're pointing out to?
I think that's a fair summary, Frederick. I mean, I think it's, we're living in a world of uncertainty, And I think as an insights industry, we have to be comfortable in providing guidance. We can't provide absolutism and guarantees of this will succeed because statistically it says so. I think we are living in a world where we're trying to gain learning, we're trying to gain those points, keeping a finger on our pulse, so checking on a regular basis that things haven't changed. And having that information to hand. And again, a connected platform that allows you to have that information available to people so they can quickly do studies. Again, agility is about speed in some ways, but it's because you've already done the preparedness. You've set up surveys, you set up questionnaires so that you can do them very quickly rather than having to spend 3 weeks debating whether to ask this question or that question. So certainly, yes, agile and iteration are critically important in today's environment.
And just for our audience here, have you been able to share the result? I mean, by sharing positively, as a success, sharing the result of a survey that took place in one region with another region during that time, and saying, well, we can see a trend here. Let's apply it somewhere else. I mean, and is it something that you feel we're not capable of doing at scale?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think we are, we have various, we have a very good internal knowledge management system that allows us to store and share data. But certainly in this crisis, we were also actively soliciting information from all the divisions. We had a point person who was collating the information from COVID and then disseminating that back out to the divisions. She was identifying commonalities or differences so that people didn't have to reinvent things. We were certainly making sure that pieces of learning from Europe were shared with Latin America. The crisis in Europe happened before it happened in Latin America, so we were able to share LATAM. You're likely to see an upturn in sales followed by a downturn, for example. You're likely to see a rush on this type of variant of product. So certainly as a company, yes, sharing that information quickly through systems is incredibly important.
And we're talking about a bit of the scalability that's needed. It's almost like saying market research needs to be scalable. It's we could put another industry and say every industry needs to be scalable. In terms of sharing, do you think that a lot of critiques around in the past around DIY platform or agile platform was that you said give a Formula One to someone that doesn't drive and it's going to be a car crash. Give a Peugeot, like an old Peugeot, to someone that's a Formula One driver. It's not going to fly. So the ability to share templates and questionnaire and distribute that into the organization. Do you feel that's now one of the major way to ensure that scalability and that quality of research? So research that can be done by people who are not, world-class expert on research. Yep. Is it something that's possible, or you're less passionate than I am?
No, I think, Frederick, that, I'm so proud to be the leader of the insights team at Colgate. We have some of the smartest, best insighters in the world who really are able to build empathy and understanding. But too often they were getting caught up in running relatively small studies where there was limited opportunity to add value. It was maybe an assessment of a few things. So a platform which allows us to democratize the most routine, the repeated studies, those which are really just able to be executed quickly and efficiently, allows our insights people then to focus on the biggest issues. So to your point, I don't end up putting a Formula One driver in a Citroën. What I do is I make that Citroën available ubiquitously so that marketing people, so commercial teams can act upon that and use it when they need to. But at the same time, the insights team we have can then focus on really the big meaty issues which are going to really transform and accelerate the growth of the business. So I think you're absolutely right. We maybe aren't the first to democratize insights, but that's a passionate plan. And I think, we have a team working on it now about how do you democratize those basic studies, you optimize them, they run efficiently, the study results come through, they're accessible broadly to people so that people can see them. Absolutely, that's going to be a clear pathway forward.
I say that because one of our mission at Tuluna is the democratization of research. And when we introduce that concept of democratization of research, it's really to make it a mass market. By that, I mean that I believe that research, and that's an industry body that we're in here, a conference for the industry. If we want to make research expand, we have to give the ability to more people within the enterprise. I'm talking about the enterprise market here, to do research. And for that, I believe I agree with you. We need to give them tools that are readily available within boundaries. What you do, what you can do. And obviously, if people are more expert, they can customize themselves the research.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe the analogy, is like in cooking, the microwave oven allowed multiple people to prepare a okay meal, but on a consistent basis. You wouldn't ruin it sort of situation. The chef, takes the raw ingredients and uses creativity and inspiration to come up with something much better. And that's what I want our insights people to use, their creativity, their deep skill set to create that master meal. And in the meantime, we'll make the microwave of the basic learning processes that can be repeated time and time again and get consistent results. Absolutely.
So if I may at this point, I would like to go back to people, because we're operating in an industry and we are, interrogating people across the globe. And, it's been, let's put it this way, it's been a wild ride. 2020 has been, it's been 8 months into this crisis. I feel it's been years, in terms of the pressure and the duress on people. And, your business has been, I think, in a positive position during, not only resilient, but, during that crisis, given the legacy of the business, the innovation that you prepared for years. But we discussed it. We're possibly headed for a recession in most market. I'm not an economist, and we've done a research at Tuluna, and that's really a point of focus of people: the uncertainty into their job, the recession. How do you adapt innovation and product? For a time like that, expecting that we're going to enter into recession, what's changing? How do you, if you go back to 2008, what's the difference? What's the common point here?
Yeah, Colgate is such a huge, big global company with a long history that we've seen many recessions, and that's not to make us be sort of blasé about the recession. But I think what we have learned is that, recession isn't just about, make a cheap product with a inferior, formulation. In fact, many people, on lower incomes actually rely upon better quality products, sometimes because they can't maybe visit the dentist as frequently as they would like. So they want a toothpaste which is going to give them the maximum level of protection. Maybe they can't afford to have their teeth whitened professionally, so they're looking for whitening solutions. So I think, when it comes to recession, we have a lot of historical knowledge, but it is also about understanding what are the trade-offs that people will have to make. There will be some products that we do need to offer, maybe a smaller size because it has a lower ticket price. We know from around the world many people can only afford to spend small amounts of money. We know, therefore, we have to make our products available. But I think, what we have to make sure is when we do our learning is that we're talking to maybe a different set of individuals, that we're focusing more time talking to people who have recently lost their jobs to learn from them, not just maybe talking to the average person who still is doing okay. So I think it's, again, about changing a little bit about those people you're talking to and being prepared to act upon what you hear, but not just assuming, unemployment means we need to drop our price, we need to run money off promotions. There are still many opportunities to drive growth and incremental value, even in big ones.
So you're pointing out to the need to go and engage and dialogue or question, more targeted, I don't want to call it audience, but I don't have any other word, audiences, that might be affected by the recession, and trying to understand their need better on a consistent basis. That's what you're referring at.
I think, ideally, regardless of the circumstances, you would be talking to a broad range of people. I think one of the other things the industry, needs to move from is perhaps spending most of its time talking to the people in the middle. We need to spend more time talking to people on the outside. and learn from that to then say, how will that also help the cohort in the middle? So I think, yes, in a recession, it's very important that you talk to people who are struggling with financial choices, but we should be doing that all the time, because whether it's a recession or not, unfortunately, we live in a world where many people are restricted by income. And so as companies and brands, we need to be talking to that type of person all the time. We need to be talking to people who've got unique needs or unique sort of problems that they're facing all the time. And then when you face a recession, maybe you dial up a little bit the learning in one area, but you're ready to act upon that knowledge. You haven't got to start from scratch.
Yeah, and I really believe that's the right way to do it. Trying to to reach out to micro-targeted communities to understand their needs and trying to do that consistently. A spotlight. A bit of talking about the future. We have 4 minutes left, so that's not a lot of time for continuing to speak about the future. But we're talking about the access to data and the enrichment of data, and having more data. So, have you been asked, how have you managed to work with different set of data? And what, do you feel we're, as an industry, we're at the right level now, or there is much more to do from that standpoint?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we are living in a world where there is more data than I think anybody really knows what to do with it. So, I think we have to be careful that we don't swamp ourselves, because I could probably find a data point to support any opinion of what's going to happen in the future that anybody wants. I mean, we live in that type of world. I do think as an industry, as well as heavily relying upon surveys, we are actively using a lot more of the social media data that you can gain from the Twitters and things. We use a lot of information that our consumer affairs collect through our contact centers. For example, we have thousands of people talking to Colgate. We're using that to help understand the situation. E-commerce review platforms can be a great source of early feedback of in-market performance. Again, I think it comes back to insiders' jobs are connecting these diverse points, building up a holistic point of view and saying to the business, this is what I think is likely to happen based upon a survey, based upon social, based upon feedback directly from e-commerce reviews. But I can't guarantee that's going to happen. But like a weather forecast, I can give you a degree of sort of certainty. Maybe it's 50% likely to happen. Then the business has to decide to act upon it or not. But we have to be careful with being swamped with too much data. But on the other hand, if we only use one source of information to make the decision, it almost certainly won't be the best decision. So I think it's about taking survey data with qualitative, cultural, and semiotic work, ethnography, social media, everything you can find, but then coming to a very tight point of view.
Yeah, I mean, we've said so much, and it's very inspiring. And I think, I hope everyone is inspired like I am by what you said. We talk about, agility, adaptability, flexibility, quality, the need, the foundation of research methodology. Yep. And sorry to say, but we've talked about platform as well as, one of the vehicles to do that. Yep. But you've mentioned a lot of changes happening in 2020. How does that play for 2021? And I think that would be my last question. How much of these changes that you've seen, this adoption that you've seen within your team or within the market, are here to stay? And where are we ever going back to normal after that? As insights manager or insights, professional.
Well, I don't think we should ever go back to something. You should only go forward to something else. I think one of the powerful things we've learned is the ability for people to perform their jobs without physically being in a location. So, we've had people in North America moving around onto the West Coast or the East Coast. We have an example of one of our insights people from Russia actually currently being in the United States for personal reasons. And that allows, what it's proven is we can use our resources in a much more agile fashion. In the past, we deployed our insights people to specific countries or categories, and they were sort of somewhat static. I think we've realized the world is not going to ever be a static world. And, from a resource point of view, insights has to become much more flexible. So this agility in how we use our different resources, being able to move from one project to another quickly. But you're absolutely right, Frederick. At the bottom of all this is the quality of the response. If you put rubbish in, you're going to get rubbish out. And, it doesn't matter what the technology is. If the quality of that respondent is not being monitored by people like yourself, then Colgate is not going to be able to make good decisions. So for me, coming out of today's conversation, agile is not just speed. It's about the ability to move quickly, but using quality data. And please, please, please talk about people and not consumers, because we live in a world of people and we don't just live in this myopic little world of our consumers.
And now it's spring, so we have done. I wanted to be very disciplined with Esomar, so I put So thank you very much, Richard. Great discussion from my standpoint. I hope Finn, you and everyone else has enjoyed it as well, as much as we have, hopefully.
Frederick, it was fantastic, and thank you to Richard for two things. Richard, number one, I thought your analogy of the microwave, by the way, was just fantastic about technology and kind of making mass food available without taking away from the Michelin star or the haute cuisine. And Frederick, I commend your courage in asking your interviewer, listen, we've got 4 minutes left. Can you tell me what the future is? So I'll have to remember that, certainly going forward. It's a great question to ask. But thank you to the two of you, really, for sharing your thoughts and your own views and your opinions on what is important, what is likely to be more important in the future. And can I also just say that I think from our perspective, we agree with everything that you said, particularly as some level of rigor has to underline everything that we do. As Richard, you said, rubbish in, rubbish out, and that's the last thing we need. And I think in these times, with so much data being available, there's a huge opportunity for us as a community, as a family, a global family, to ensure that we really do leverage the expertise that we have in that regard. Thank you very much to both of you. Really appreciated it, and it's been a fantastic conversation. So many thanks.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this special episode and the discussion between Frederic and Richard. And once again, you can enjoy lots more content from this year's Insights Festival on the Esomar website and via the Esomar YouTube channel. Next time on Talking Insights, we're bringing you a discussion about one of the biggest issues facing society and companies today, trust. Thank you for listening, and I do hope you'll join us again next time.